I love an oozy poached egg with almost any breakfast, but Turkish eggs takes that concept and elevates it to an entirely different level. It's really such a simple recipe with a creamy, garlicky yogurt base topped with perfectly poached eggs. And then you just drizzle some spiced buttery sauce on top and finish it off with some freshly chopped herbs. This is one recipe that I love serving for brunch on a large platter because it presents so beautifully. But there's also no need to wait for guests in order to serve it because I think you deserve something this easy, healthy, delicious, and elegant on the regular. So let me show you how to make it. To get started, you'll make the garlicky yogurt, and it's a simple mix of 1 cup of a good quality, nice and thick Greek yogurt and 1 garlic clove. And it's best if you finely grate or mince the garlic clove so it can really meld into the yogurt. Then just add a little salt and pepper for flavor. Stir that all together and set it aside or back in the fridge while you make the other bits and pieces. And that includes the spiced butter sauce, and to do that, add 4 tablespoons of butter to a small pan over medium-low heat. Once the butter starts to melt, add 2 teaspoons of Aleppo pepper. Aleppo pepper is a popular spice in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean recipes with a deep red color that's really beautiful, and it has a mild chili flavor. I think this recipe is worth grabbing a jar of Aleppo pepper for due to its complex flavor, but I will also list a few swaps on the recipe blog post as well. And then to that, you'll add 1 teaspoon of paprika. Stir that all together and then you can just set it aside while you make the poached eggs. Now, when it comes to poached eggs, you guys know I love poached eggs. And can you believe that my original YouTube video on how to make poached eggs now has over 20 million views? It's crazy. In that video, I talk in further detail about why straining the eggs over a fine mesh sieve helps to give you nice, tight whites around the yolk. Because it's usually that liquidy white that floats all over the place in the water and then makes for more funky shaped poached eggs. So you'll strain some of that liquidy white from each egg and then place it in a small prep bowl or ramekin. And you'll need 4 eggs for this recipe for 2 servings. In that old video, I also talk about the vortex method, but since we're making several poached eggs today, you'll heat about 2 inches of water in a wider pan instead. I also recommend adding a tablespoon or so of apple cider vinegar as it helps to keep your poached eggs a bit tighter. Bring your water to a simmer, then reduce the heat to medium-low so that there's just a few really tiny bubbles on the bottom, but that the water is otherwise still. Then very slowly and very gently, lower each ramekin with an egg into the water, spacing them out. Cook the poached eggs for 3 minutes for an oozy yolk, or you can go a little bit less or a little bit longer on the time, depending on your yolk preference. But 3 minutes is my personal favorite. Once they're done, use a slotted spoon to remove each egg from the water. And while it looks like this one is all splayed out a bit, it's actually some of that loose white, and you can pull that off if you'd like for a more perfectly shaped poached egg. If you're serving these up right away, you can dab each egg on a paper towel to remove any excess water. Or if you'd like to prep several poached eggs, you can always add them to a bowl of cold water. This will stop their cooking so that the yolk stays nice and runny until you're ready. And those are the 3 components of Turkish eggs: a garlicky yogurt, poached eggs, and a spiced butter sauce. And once you've got those components done, all you have to do is combine them together. So dollop and smear half of the yogurt on a plate, and then add 2 of the poached eggs in the middle. Drizzle the spiced butter sauce on top, and if it cooled down a bit, you can always reheat it quickly on the stove before drizzling. But as you can see, I like to add a generous amount of it because it is so darn tasty. And then for the finishing touch, add some freshly chopped tender herbs like dill and parsley. I also love how the green herbs contrast with the reddish orange sauce, and it just presents so beautifully. I mean, doesn't this look like something you would get on a fancy brunch menu in a restaurant? But it's super easy to make at home, and you can prep ahead of time the individual bits and pieces, then just combine them when you're ready to serve. And look at that perfectly poached and oozy egg. I'm telling you guys, 3 minutes is hands down my favorite for poached eggs that turn out like this every single time. Now, it's quite common to dip some bread into these Turkish eggs to soak up all that goodness, and I'm just using some store-bought gluten-free bread today as I'm gluten-free, but you can use your favorite bread. Or if you want to keep it low carb, you can simply dive in with a fork as well, which is honestly what I do most often. I have had this recipe on repeat the last few weeks as the weather has warmed up, and I am not mad about it. As I mentioned at the beginning, it really is the perfect weekend brunch recipe, but it's so easy to whip up and it has so much flavor that I don't think it should be relegated to only a weekend breakfast. I think that you should enjoy it throughout the week, and whether you serve it with bread or you just eat it with just the eggs and yogurt, you're gonna enjoy it either way. Now, if you do wanna serve it for a brunch where you've got a bunch of guests coming and you kinda wanna impress them, what I say to do is instead of serving it up individually on small little plates, put it on one large platter. You could put 8 to 10, maybe even 12 eggs, depending on the size of your platter. Do a big smear of the yogurt, dot all of the eggs on it, drizzle the spiced butter sauce, the herbs. It just looks so stunning, and I will show a photo here of what that looks like because I have done that before. And I'll also share a few extra tips if you do plan on serving it that way on the recipe post on my website. Many of you also know that I have traveled to a lot of countries. Turkey is actually a country I have not yet traveled to, but it might be on the to-do list for next year. So keep your eyes peeled on that. I might be hitting Turkey and Greece next year. And if I do, then it's pretty much a guarantee I'm gonna be eating a lot of Turkish eggs in Turkey. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And after you've made this recipe, please share your photos on social media. I would love to see. And then go over to the website and give the recipe blog post 5 stars. I would very much appreciate that. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.